Hey guys, welcome to Unacademy. So this is our YouTube channel. Let's crack CBSE Commerce. I'm Riti Spandana. I have 9 years plus teaching experience and I'm a faculty from Hyderabad. So quick introduction about our Unacademy platform. तो हमारे Unacademy platform पे you will have access to daily live sessions. So you can attend all live classes where it will give you a real time classroom experience, क्योंकि आप educator के साथ जो है communicate कर सकते हो. आपके जो भी doubts है session के through आप उन doubts को clear कर सकते हो. So basically the daily live classes are going to be very beneficial that way. And also you will have unlimited access to these sessions. So अगर आपने कोई live session miss भी किया है, you don't have to worry, you can always attend a recorded session. And we have different courses, course planning. So in case आप कोई एक particular series आप miss कर दिए हो तो वो दोबारा आपके subscription duration में हो सकता है कि दोबारा वो series चालू हो जाए. It depends on the number of students. So when you look at all of these, you can always attend a recorded session or a live session. And if you attend recorded sessions, after every 4 to 5 classes एक doubt session रहेगा, तो उसमें आप बाद में भी डाउट्स आपके क्लैरिफाई कर सकते हो. जैसे क्लास के थ्रू आपके कोई डाउट्स नहीं आए तो लेसन के बाद वो डाउट सेशन में आप आपके डाउट्स जो है क्लैरिफाई करवा सकते हो. Then we have live tests and quizzes, which basically gives you an idea of what are your strong areas and what are your weak areas. We also have structured courses. Basically this means that आपका जो भी CBSE का पैटर्न है, स्ट्रक्चर है, उसके अनुसार सारे सब्जेक्ट्स के सिलेबस जो है वो डिटरमाइन रहेगा. We have free live classes which are also called special classes. So please do try them out. Every Sunday we have a special class festival also, and on a daily basis also we have a lot of special classes that happen in our Unacademy app. So please ensure that you attend at least a few special classes so that you will get a better idea of what to expect. And special classes are going to be very different from the plus subscription classes, obviously. So please do attend the special classes and then you can take a subscription. All you have to do is go into Google App Store or Apple App Store and download the Unacademy Learning app, and you need to choose which class you want to take the subscription for, and that's it, you're good to go. So we are also available on Telegram app. So all you have to do is just go to the description box below. You will find a link to our Telegram channel, and you will also find a link to our to my Unacademy educator profile, and also to our link to download the Unacademy app. So coming to the subscription costs, so the 11th and 12th we have a dual subscription right now. और इसके अलावा अगर आप 12th में हो तो आप 1 year का सब्सक्रिप्शन ले सकते हो. अगर आप 11th में हो तो ड्यूअल सब्सक्रिप्शन ले सकते हो. सो द अपॉर्चुनिटी इज़ हियर फॉर बोथ ऑफ दीज. एंड प्लीज़ रिमेंबर, जैसे 12th के बाद आप कोई भी एंट्रेंस एग्ज़ाम लिख रहे हो तो 11th का सिलेबस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. So if you're taking a dual subscription, you will have all the notes and all the sessions and the recorded videos available for all topics which will be relevant for your entrance examinations later. Dual subscription का cost है 25,000, but if you use my code RITI, you can avail a 10% discount और आपको cost पड़ेगा सिर्फ 22,500 rupees. And if you're taking if you're in 12th standard तो आप 1 year का भी subscription ले सकते हो, where the cost is 15,000, but if you use my code RITI, the subscription cost will only be 13,500 rupees. So please do not delay, enroll today. And also we have 6 months, 12 months, 24 months no cost EMI, yani interest free EMI. Okay, let's continue with today's session. So today's session we are doing freedom. ये 12th standard का syllabus है. So you have a lesson freedom which comes under the non-fiction section of your English subject. So let's continue with that. I hope it's clear to everyone. Everyone can see what's written here. Okay, let's continue. George Bernard Shaw was a dramatist. Dramatist as he used to write dramas, and also he was a critic of books. His work as a London newspaper critic of music and drama resulted in the quintessence of Ibsenism. Okay, so this is what is being written here. Okay, let's continue. His famous plays include Arms and the Man, Canandaigua, and Man and Superman. So these are some of his famous plays. Okay. His works present a fearless intellectual criticism, sugar-coated. Sugar-coated is made nice. Okay. Something that is made nice. Okay. Then rebelled against muddled thinking. Muddled is confused. And sought to puncture hollow pretensions. Hollow is shallow, something that's not, good. Something that will not benefit at all is hollow pretensions. Pretensions is to pretend to be something that you are not. Okay, let's continue then. What is a perfectly free person? So this is a rhetorical question. Why? Because the answer to this is being discussed in the next part of this entire chapter. Okay. Evidently, a person who can do what he likes, when he likes, and where he likes, or do nothing at all if he prefers it. Okay, so who is a perfectly free person? A person who can do what he likes, when he likes, and where he likes, or do nothing at all if he prefers it. Then he is supposed to be, or he is called a free person. Well, there is no such person, and there never can be any such person. Whether we like it or not, we must all sleep for 1/3 of our lifetime, wash and dress and undress. We must spend a couple of hours eating and drinking. We must spend nearly as much in getting about from place to place. For half the day, we are slaves to necessities which we cannot shrink, whether we are monarchs with 1,000 slaves or humble laborers with no servants but their wives. And the wives must undertake the additional heavy slavery of childbearing if the world is still to be peopled. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about various aspects of our everyday life which we do not have a choice. So basically a free man is somebody who can do whatever he wants, whenever, wherever, and if he doesn't want to do anything, he just can sit idle. But such a person does not exist. Why? Because if I don't do anything, if I'm just sitting idle, I do whatever I like and I won't, then I won't earn any money. And also the daily necessities of eating, drinking to stay alive are also something that come into the curriculum. So I can't do that also as per my wish. There has to be a rigid timetable, and there has to be discipline in maintaining all of these things. And sometimes when you don't have domestic help, then you end up so you need to understand that this is a very old, very very old essay. So this could be somewhere in 19th century when slavery was common. Slavery was abolished somewhere in 1860s. Until then, this was all very common there. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we need to read this essay. So do not get confused. Do not think of it as something that is modern of today. Okay. So here that is what he is talking about. So irrespective of who you are, whether you are a king or a rich person or a poor person, somewhere or the other, there are certain things which you need to do on your own. You can't let people do it for you. These natural jobs cannot be shrinked, but they involve other jobs which can. As we must eat, we must first provide food. As we must sleep, we must have beds, and bedding in houses with fireplace and coals. As we must walk through the streets, we must have clothes to cover our nakedness. Now, food and houses and clothes can be produced by human labor. Okay? But when they are produced, they can be stolen. If you like honey, you can let the bees produce it by their labor and then steal it from them. If you are too lazy to get about from place to place on your own legs, you can make a slave of a horse. And what you do to a horse or a bee, you can also do to a man or woman or a child if you can get the upper hand of them by force or fraud or trickery of any sort, or even by teaching them that it's their religious duty to sacrifice their freedom to yours. So, what is he talking about here? He's talking about if we take honey from honeybees, it's like stealing. Why? Because they have spent hours and days and months collecting the nectar from those plants and flowers, and that too, that nectar is like very tiny amount of it, and they keep filling it in their honeycomb, and all a human being does is to break it down and take the honey out of it. Okay, so here that is what he's talking about. Or a horse or a bee. You can also do to a man or a woman or a child by forcing them to fraud or trickery of any sort, which means, let's say you have a, a domestic help in your house who really needs the job, so you could probably make that person do extra work for less money because that person is desperate, something like that. That is what he's talking about, saying that sometimes human beings are we ourselves steal the freedom of other animals, birds, and human beings. So beware, if you allow any person or class of persons to get the upper hand of you, he will shift all that part of his slavery to nature that can be shifted onto your shoulders, and you will find yourself working from 8 to 14 hours a day, when if you had only yourself and your family to provide for, you could do it quite comfortably in half the time or less. The object of all honest governments should be to prevent your being imposed on in this way, but the object of most actual governments, I regret to say, is exactly the opposite. They enforce your slavery and call it freedom, but they also regulate your slavery, keeping your greed of your masters within certain bounds. When chattel slavery of the Negro sort costs more than wage slavery, they abolish chattel slavery and make you free to choose between one employment or one master and another, and this they call glorious triumph for freedom. So what is he talking about? He's talking about African Americans when they were freed from their slavery. Then they were not really free because at that point of time they did not have a lot of education. They did not know anything except the work that they were doing. They were clueless, and the government had no clue how to give them a path at that point of time. It was, you can say, it was an unplanned move. So at that point of time, those people did not have any a basic idea of what they want to do with their life, what they can possibly do. All they knew was their own masters, or they all they knew were the people they knew or they were working with, and they had no idea how much money they could charge for the work that they were doing, which means they were also being exploited by people who were hiring them and paying them. That's what he's talking about. So here the question is, how can we call it a glorious triumph of freedom when they were not really given any freedom of choice to choose how much pay they need to get and with whom they want to work and what kind of work they want to do. Though for you it is merely the key of the street, when you complain, they promise that in future you shall govern the country for yourself. They redeem this promise by giving you a vote and having general election every 5 years or so. So what is he talking about? He's talking about how they give you voting privileges and voting rights, and then they will give you a chance to. So if you remember during around that time, 1860s and all, there was even women did not have a right to vote. Even they had to fight a lot to get a right to vote. So here basically what he is talking about is whether it's women or African Americans or anybody, the basic thing that one would do is promise that one day even you will get to be the president of here in this case America, and then you try and give them a vote and then talk about what they can possibly do. At the election, two of their rich friends ask for your vote, and you are free to choose which of them you will vote for to spite the other. A choice which leaves you no freer than you were before. Which means when elections go on, then you have only two candidates whom you did not select who are contesting, and you will have to choose among or between those two candidates, and you have no choice except for those two. So if you don't like one, you have to elect the other. That's what he means when he says spite. Okay, which means if you don't like one person, out of spite that this person should not win, you vote for the other, but it doesn't mean you like the other person or the other candidate. Okay, so this means that you are no freer than you were before. Why? Because you did not choose those two candidates, because you had no say in how many candidates need to be contesting for elections. But the newspapers assure you that your vote has decided the election and that this constitutes you a free citizen in a democratic country. The amazing thing about this it is that you are a fool enough to believe them. So the best thing about it is that you also believe that what they are basically telling you is also the truth. Now mark another big difference between the natural slavery of man to nature and the unnatural slavery. Man to man. Nature is kind to her slaves. If she forces you to eat and drink, she makes eating and drinking so pleasant that we can afford it if we eat and drink too much. We must sleep or go mad, but then sleep is so pleasant that we have great difficulty in getting up in the morning. And firesides in families seem so pleasant to the young that they get married and join building societies to realize their dreams. Thus, instead of resenting our natural wants as slavery, we take the greatest pleasure in their satisfaction. So, what does this mean? That basically we talk about freedom and we love being free and we fight for our freedom, but if you technically see, we are not free because we enjoy being enslaved by the natural things that are around us. We are enslaved to our hunger and thirst. We are enslaved to our family needs and social bondings. The slavery of man to man is the very opposite of this. It is the hateful to the body and to the spirit. Our poets do not praise it. They proclaim that no man is good enough to be another man's master. The latest of the great Jewish prophets, a gentleman named Marx, spent his life in proving that there is no extremity of selfish cruelty at which the slavery of man to, so this is Karl Marx here, man will stop if it be not stopped by law. You can see for yourself that it produces a state of continual civil war called the class war between the slaves and their masters, organized as trade unions on one side and employers' federations on the other. Saint Thomas More, who has just been canonized, held that we shall never have a peace and stable society until the struggle is ended by the abolition of slavery altogether, and the compulsion of everyone to do his share of the world's work with his own hands and brains and not to attempt to put it on anyone else. Naturally, the master class, through its parliaments and schools and newspapers, makes the most desperate efforts to prevent us from realizing our slavery. From our earliest years, we are taught that our country is the land of the free and that our freedom was won for us by our forefathers when they made King John sign Magna Charta, or also spelled Carta, when they defeated. Carta is basically a treaty, you can say. It's like a bond, okay? When they defeated the Spanish Armada, Armada is a fleet of ships. When they cut off King Charles' head, when they made King William accept the Bill of Rights, when they issued and made good the American Declaration of Independence, when they won the battles of Waterloo. So the Battle of Waterloo is basically when the president was Richard Nixon. There was a scam where the government documents disappeared, were actually thieved, and people believe that the president. So that was the Waterloo fiasco. Trafalgar on the playing fields of Eton, and when only the other day they quite unintentionally changed the German, Austrian, Russian, and Ottoman empires into republics. When we grumble, grumble is complain. We are told that our miseries are our own doing because we have to vote. When we say what good is the vote, we are told that we have the factory acts, the wage boards, the free education, and the New Deal and the dole. And what more could any reasonable man ask for? We are reminded that the rich are taxed a quarter, a third, or even a half and more of their incomes. But the poor are never reminded that they have to pay that much of their wages as rent, in addition to having to work twice as long every day as they would need if they were free. Okay, let's continue. No doubt so far. Whenever famous writers protest against this imposture, say Voltaire, Rousseau, or Tom Paine in the 18th century, or Cobbett and Shelley, Karl Marx and Lassalle in the 19th, or Lenin in the Trotsky in the 20th, you are taught that they are atheists and libertines, murderers and scoundrels, and often it is made criminal offense to buy or sell their books. So he's talking about freedom of speech here. That if someone says something as a freedom of speech, then if the government does not like it, they might get them arrested. Powers to join her in forcing the revolutionists restore the slave power. When this combination was successful at Waterloo, the victory was advertised as another triumph for British freedom, and the British weighed slaves instead of going into mourning like Lord Byron, believed it all and cheered enthusiastically. When the revolution wins, as it did in Russia in 1922, the fighting stops, but the abuse, the calumnies. Calumnies are the quarrels, the fights. The lies continue until the revolutionized state grows into first-rate military power. Then our diplomatists, after having for years denounces to give up. The revolutionary leaders as most abominable is somebody who is extremely superior or intimidating or scary, fearful, okay? Villains and tyrants. They have tyrant as a dictator. Have to do a right turn and invite them to dinner, which means irrespective of what people do, you tend to have no other choice but to accept it because they are more powerful than you are. Now though this prodigious is talented. Talented mass of humbug is meant to delude. Delude is, you can say, false impression or false idea about something. Delude the enslaved masses only. It ends in deluding the master class much more completely. Okay, which means sorry, a gentleman whose mind has been formed at a preparatory school for the sons of gentlemen, followed by a public school and university course, is much more thoroughly taken in by the falsified history and dishonest political economy and the snobbery taught in these places than any worker can possibly be. Because the gentleman's education teaches him that he is a very fine fellow, superior to the common run of men, whose duty it is to brush his clothes, carry his parcels, and earn his income for him, and as he thoroughly agrees with this view of himself, he honestly believes that the system, which has been placed in such an agreeable situation and done such justice to his merits, is the best of all possible systems, and that he should shed his blood and yours to the last drop in his defense. But the great mass of our rack-rented, underpaid, treated as inferiors, cast off on the dole workers cannot feel so sure about it as the gentlemen. The facts are too harshly against it in hard times, such as we are now passing through. Their disgust and despair sometimes lead them to kick over the traces, upset everything, and they have to be rescued from mere gangsterism by some Napoleonic genius, and meaning dictator, who has a fancy for being an emperor, and who has, so Napoleon was the French dictator, who has the courage and brains and energy to jump at the chance. But the slaves who give 3 cheers for the emperor might just as well have made a cross on a British or American ballot paper as far as their freedom is concerned. So far, I have mentioned nothing but plain natural historical facts. I draw no conclusions, for that would lead me into controversy, and controversy would not be fair when you cannot answer me back. The practical question at the bottom of it all, how the income of the whole country can be best be distributed from day to day. If the earth is cultivated agriculturally in vast farms with motor plows and chemical fertilizers, the industrially in huge electrified factories full of machinery that a girl can handle, the product may be so great that an equal distribution of it would provide enough to give the unskilled laborers as much as the managers and the men of the scientific stuff. Produce in the reign of good Queen Anne, that this marvelous increase includes things like needles and steel pins and matches, which we can neither eat nor drink nor wear. Very young children will eat needles and matches eagerly, but the diet is not a nourishing one. And though we can now cultivate the sky as well as the earth by drawing nitrogen from it to increase and improve the quality of our grass and consequently of our cattle and milk and butter and eggs, nature may have tricks up her sleeve to check us if the chemists exploit her too greedily. That's what we are talking about now as an organic farming. And now to sum up, wipe out from your dreams of freedom, of the hope of being able to do as you please all the time. For at least 12 hours of your day, nature orders you to do certain things and will kill you if you don't do them. This leaves 12 hours for working, and here again, nature will kill you unless you either earn your living or get somebody else to earn it for you. If you live a civilized country, your freedom is restricted by the laws of the land enforced by the police who oblige you to do this and not do that. If you do not obey these laws, and courts will imprison you, and if you go too far, kill you, which means death penalty probably. If the laws are reasonable and are impartially administered, you have no reason to complain because they increase your freedom by protecting you against assault, highway robbery, and disorder generally. So, this was the uh, lesson. Iago's advice is not very practical. We must change our politics before we can get what we want, and meanwhile, we must stop gassing about freedom. And now, suppose we can at last win a lot more leisure and a lot more money than we have accustomed to. What are we going to do with them? I was taught in my childhood that Satan will find mischief still in for idle hands to do. I have seen men come into a fortune and lose their happiness. It is not at all easy to know what to do with leisure unless we have been hardly brought up to it. I will therefore leave you with a conundrum. Conundrum is a problem. To think over, if you had your choice, would you work for 8 hours a day and retire with a full pension at 45, or would you rather work 4 hours a day and keep on working until you're 70? Now you don't send the answer to me, please talk it over with your wife. So this is how he's ending this particular lesson. So this lesson basically talks about freedom and what it means to different people, and how a person can never truly be free because a person needs to be or a person is enslaved to his or her routine and work and a necessity to earn money. So I hope you all understood the lesson and have enjoyed the lesson. I hope to see you all in the next class. Thank you very much. And please do not forget to use my code RITI in order to avail your 10% discount for the Thank you.